My name is Mitchell Hang. I'll introduce myself a bit more further. So this is a presentation I did with my friend, City Pop, the golden era of Japanese music. Y'all can hear me clearly, right? Yeah. All right, sounds good. So I'm going to introduce my friend, who I think I must give most of the credit to, since he came up with the idea for this presentation, and I helped collaborate with him on it. So this is, if I can just see this a little bit better, this is Ryan Long, aka Ruri Tenshi. He's a frequent cosplayer. He mostly does cosplays, as you can see here. He's done Sinon from Sword Art Online, 2B from Nier, Asuka from Evangelion, and Rin and Astolfo from the Fate franchise. He originally came up with the idea for this panel, and he has experience going to different cons in the US. So if you can find him, his Instagram is at SinonXK_cosplay. And here I am. So I'm Mitchell Hang. I'm currently a college student. I'm studying journalism at the University of Maryland in College Park. Go Terps. And I'm the host of, my own radio show on this college's radio station, WMUC, titled Kimi no Station, which is Japanese for Your Station. And I also own a YouTube channel of the same name. I have a bit of a passion for archiving, especially stuff like cassette tapes, VHS tapes, and Laserdisc. I especially love collecting broadcast media. I co-wrote most of this presentation with Long, and I also give credit to some other people that I featured here. And I have less experience going to cons. I think Otakon 2022 was the first con I attended where I gave this presentation. So hopefully I'll be able to go to more cons in the future. Some other contributors we have here are Tom, or Tom X. He's a community member from Canada. William Watanabe, Spider Gores. He is a pixel artist and chiptuner from Brazil. If you know what chiptune music is, good for you. He came up with most of the designs, if you see right here, believe it or not. So I'm going to go back to the first slide real quick. He came up with most of this design right here, so it's very nice. And then we also have Jerry McClellan, also known as Rocket Brown. He's the host of Come Along Radio, and he has his own blog site. So now we shall get things underway with a bit of a question. How many of you recognize this image over there? Oh, yeah. A lot of hands, I like to see it. So this is the iconic image of Miya Takeuchi on the famous YouTube upload of Plastic Glove. And despite being associated with Plastic Glove, it is actually sourced from the cover of her Sweetest Music single from 1980. The photo was taken by Alan Levinson, a photographer based in LA. The original video was posted by Plastic Glover before it was briefly removed due to a copyright claim, not by the record company, but by Alan Levinson himself, the one who took the photo. And Levinson described the photo, quote, "A moment in time, 1980, a glance, a smile, a click of the shutter. 39 years later, an internet icon, a total surprise." And so now we're gonna go over the basics of City Pop. So another question I have for you, give me 1 second. How many of you have heard any of these songs before? Raise your hand. So we have Plastic Glove, 4 AM, Telephone Number, A Mystical Composer, name a few, Kanashimi ga Tomaranai, Fantasy, Summer Connection, and all of these songs fall under the genre of Japanese city pop, also known simply as city pop, and you see a bunch of album covers in the background as some examples. So we need to figure out what exactly is city pop. City pop is a loosely defined subset of J-pop music that originated in Japan in the late 1970s. It was originally termed as an offshoot of Japan's Western-influenced new music, but came to include a wide range of styles associated with the company's nascent economic boom, such as AOR, soft rock, R&B, funk, and other Motown artists. And as you can see right here, it's heavily shaped by popular Black contemporary music genres such as these. And then major influences include, but are not limited to, Doobie Brothers, Stevie Wonder, Boz Scaggs, Isley Brothers, Steely Dan, very nice, and the Beach Boys. And then some examples of artists you see here. I don't know if the text is kind of hard to see, but there's Tatsuo Yamashita, Kiyotaka Sugiyama, and Omega Tribe, Miya Takeuchi, most famously, I call it the City Pop Queen, and then Yamashita, the City Pop King, Toshiki Katamatsu, and Honori on the bottom right. And then we have some more examples of artists. How many of these do you recognize? I see plenty. So we have here Tatsuo Yamashita, Toshi Kanamatsu, Eiichi Otaki for some of the male section. Female artists, we have Miya Takeuchi, of course, Anri, Taiko Unuki, Miki Matsubara, and then for groups, we have Sugar Babe, Bread and Butter, Omega Tribe. We have 3 different generations, famously Kiyotaka Sugiyama and Omega Tribe, 1986 Omega Tribe. The most famous hit was Kimi wa 10%, and Kalas Tochigi and Omega Tribe. And then we also have Hi-Fi Set and Tube. Tube also had a famous hit, I think, in the mid-1980s with Season in the Sun. And so now we will go over the background and history of city pop. So starting in 1970, give me 1 second because I have a bunch of props as here. So 1970 was when the group Happy End, formed by Ichi Otaki, Harumi Hosono, Shiro Suzuki, and Takashi Matsumoto formed. They're considered as Japan's first true J-rock band, and they released their sophomore album, Kazemachi Roman, or Windy City Romance, in 1971. And their third and last album was produced by Van Dyke Parks, and Japan's first true J-rock band, and they pioneered combining Western-style rock rhythms and melodies with Japanese lyrics. And if you guys, let me ask you this question. How many of y'all are familiar with the movie Lost in Translation? With, what was his name? Bill Murray and Sofia Coppola? Oh yeah, Sofia Coppola's the director, right? Yeah. Okay, thank God I got one of those names right. The song Kaze o Atsumete, I think it's track 3 off Kazemachi Roman, it appears in that film. And moving on to 1973 and 1974, we have the introduction of new music. So we have artists such as Caramel Mama, Tin Pan Alley, featuring Hosono and Suzuki of Happy End, and also later featuring Tatsuo Hayashi and Masataka Matsutoya, as well as a 1970s singer-songwriter Yumi Arai, later known as Yumi Matsutoya, who in here released her 1973 debut album, Hikoki Gumo, which was famously featured in the title track was famously featured in the Studio Ghibli film, The Wind Rises. And they pioneered the creation of new music, which is a combination of a Japanese folk with jazz fusion and R&B elements. And a few members of Happy End were previously part of the short-lived psychedelic rock group April Fool. And I consider, as I mentioned, Kazemachi Roman, I consider this to be the band's magnum opus. Moving on to 1975, we have a rock band known as Sugar Babe, featuring members Tatsuo Yamashita and Taiko Onuki. And they're considered to be the first true city pop band, as they were known for being one of the first bands to use the 7th scale of Japanese music, where they combined American soul with 1960s sunshine pop rock, so like the Love and Spoonful, for example. They released their soul album Songs in 1975, and the band broke up a year after that. And moving on to 1976, we have a few solo efforts by 2 of those members right here. Tatsuo Yamashita on the bottom left releases his solo debut album in 76 titled Circus Town, who recorded in New York and Los Angeles, and critics would go on to name Yamashita's unique urban sound as quote-unquote city music. And then on the bottom right, we also have Taiko Onuki's 1977, so her second solo album, Sun Shower, which is very nice. And Yamashita was also previously part of a group titled Niagara Triangle alongside Eiichi Otaki and Jinji Ito. They released Volume 1 in 1976, while Volume 2 wasn't released until 1982, with Otaki recruiting new members. And so we move on to 1978, where we have, that's 1978, where we have groups like Yellow Magic Orchestra, featuring Harumi Hosono, Ryuichi Sakamoto, and Yukihiro Takahashi, and they released their self-titled debut album in 78. And they were, I think, one of the most well-known group to introduce synthesized music to J-pop. And then 1978, that's where Maria Takeuchi comes into the picture. She releases her debut album Beginning, and often collaborated with Tatsuo Yamashita as a producer and arranger, and sometimes a singer-songwriter, in which we'll find out more about their relationship in somewhere along this line in the next few minutes. And then 1981, let me go fish this out. That is when Otaki of Happy End releases his 1981 studio album titled A Long Vacation on the Niagara Records label. And you recognize the iconic artwork that is by Hiroshi Nagai, and I'm actually wearing a shirt that bears this exact design right now. I got it from Uniqlo, so it's a resort rock. Yeah, thank you, that's where you can get it. It's a resort rock pop album by Otaki, and it goes on to receive numerous accolades. I think it won several Japanese music awards. And then similarly, in 1981, Akira Terao released Reflections, which would go on to become the best-selling album in 1980s Japan. And by the 1980s, the city pop genre was in full swing. Artists often performed on music shows such as the Best 10 in Japan. Some songs were heard in commercials at the time. And then we also have idol music from artists such as Akira Nakamori, Yukiko Okada, Seiko Matsuda, and Momokoki Kuchi, for example. And then we also have jazz fusion artists like Masayoshi Takanaka, Cassiopeia. This is their 1979 debut album. And T-Square, formerly known as The Square, were also popular. So one other example I could find for another iconic 80s city pop album is this one right here. This is by Henri, and it's titled Timely, and it famously features the song Kanashimi ga Tomaranai, as was a new recording of the opening theme for the anime Cat's Eye. Yep, it's going to be featured, I think, in the new Lupin and Cat's Eye collaboration. And then famously, we get to 1984, where we have this. I like the funk sound it made. This is Variety. This was the latest album from Miya Takeuchi after a brief hiatus, because I think starting around 1982, that's when she married a longtime collaborator, Tatsuo Yamashita. And then I think during this time she took a break with music and wanted to write songs for other people. And if I recall correctly, Yamashita was very impressed by the quality of her songwriting, and he suggested why don't you sing these songs themselves? So that's how this album was made, and it's produced and arranged by Yamashita, and it features the most iconic hit, the most iconic cut off this album, Plastic Love. Yeah, that's right. And now, hold on, give me 1 second. And now we move on to the 1990s, or the last decades, which was when the Japanese price level collapsed and the Showa era ended. So the bubble collapsed in late 1991, and the term did originate in the 1990s, but commentators have included some more years, such as the last 20 years, 30 years, etc. City pop declined in popularity as mass interest shifted to modern J-pop, so then we have prominent city pop artists also transitioning to contemporary rhythm and blues, pop rock, and neon soul. City pop releases, other than the occasional album reshoots and remasters, became some more sporadic during this period, while we also have modern acts attempting to replicate this city pop style, including Kirinji and Ryusenkei, and featuring us member Tomomi Sano. And then we have, go back to this, we have a few examples of these 1990s albums. Hikaru Tada, I think she famously sang one of the songs from Kingdom Hearts, is that right?
Yes, more than one.
More than one, wow.
Every game.
Wow, I'm learning new things every day. And now moving on to 2010 to now, that's when city pop decides to undergo a resurgence in popularity. Songs sampled in vaporwave and future funk, and many of the songs were sampled in vaporwave and future funk by artists such as Saint Pepsi, Night Tempo, and Young Bae. This is his 2015 famous, was it 2013 actually? 2013 album Hit Vibes. I think one song titled Skylar Spence, based off his real name, actually samples Tatsuo Yamashita's Love Talk and Honey It's You. And then we also have one by Night Tempo. This is a Showa Idol's Groove from 2019. And then we also have modern acts trying to replicate that city pop style, such as Jung Fujiyama. I think he did one of the songs for a Space Dandy, Poseidon Ishikawa, and Hitomi Toi. And then we'll get more to Poseidon Ishikawa. I think he's actually supposed to be like a Tatsuo Yamashita kind of impersonator, down to, I guess, his singing style and then even the clothes and outfit he wears. And new compilations and anthologies were released during this period, as well as reissues of lesser-known material. And then city pop artists began to release new music. For example, we have Tatsuo Yamashita's latest 2022 album titled Softly. And then we also have city pop singers Miya Takeuchi and Henri forming a duo called Peach and Apricot, where they released their single Watching Over You. And then online streaming made it easier to discover or rediscover city pop music, as was especially uploads through YouTube. And then that's when city pop had a newfound recognition outside of Japan, especially in the West. So let me go back to this. That's my mouse. So, for example, we have this. Notice any similarities between those two? And now we move on to answering the question, why do people like city pop? City pop, for many of us, is a very nice genre, as many people discover the genre through YouTube recommendations, as you can see through that upload of Plastic Glove by Plastic Lover. It's nostalgia for something people weren't around for, and it's a fresh take on a sound that many people are familiar with. It's both visually and sonically pleasing, and it allows for many people to discover a wide variety of more obscure artists, and therefore have a continual stream of discovery for new music, as well as listeners of vaporwave and future funk being able to discover the original city pops they sampled. In short, city pop to us Westerners is a fresh take on the 1970s and 80s tropes that we all know and love. So for the culture of city pop, while it was still niche during the 70s, city pop would go on to be the defining genre of the 1980s and represent Japan's then prosperous lifestyle of optimism, romanticism, luxury, and growing westernization. The burst of new technologies also helped to define the image of 80s Japan during the bubble era. So famously we have mini compact computers, this little girl holding a computer, and famously the invention of the compact disc made by Sony and some people say Philips. And then there's also the bubble economy that lasted through the early 1990s. You can see through the Nikkei stock index graph. It goes all the way up to 1990, then goes back down. And even Japanese artists and fashion became just as American-inspired as the music during the 80s, as seen in Japanese magazines like Popeye and Olive, and also through the work of graphic artists such as Hiroshi Nagai and Eisin Suzuki, in which their work was often featured on Japanese albums. So right here, we have Japanese fashion of this girl. This is actually a singer named Yuko Otaki, who is a member of the pop group Amazons, and she even famously performed for TV drama Abunai Deka and the anime City Hunter. And then so next up we have some examples of some cover artists that feature Hiroshi Nagai's artwork, for example. You see a lot of trees, a lot of nice, kind of almost pastelish colors, lots of like gradients, especially in the background. Moving on to the next one, we have art by Eisin Suzuki. Notice that he also has to feature a lot of I guess, pop art kind of styles. And especially like very nice solid colors. And I noticeably I included 3 albums from a group titled Katsumi Hori Project, or Hori Katsumi Project. Katsumi Hori is best known for composing music for the Doraemon movies from 1999 to 2004, and the 2007 Gegege no Kitaro series, in which during this time he collaborated with many other session musicians for his series of jazz fusion albums. And now we move on to this artwork inspired by Eisin Suzuki. This is the cover illustration for the First Space Dandy soundtrack from 2014. This is by Yoshiyuki Ito. And then the album famously features Hoshikuzu no Pipeline by Jung Fujiyama. And now moving on to this. How many of you recognize this cover artwork? Very nice. So believe it or not, that cover artwork is actually based on a real place. It's Turner's TV and Video in West Hollywood, California. The original building was torn down around 2007, 2008 to make way for a supermarket. And other notable locations featured on City Pop covers include the original World Trade Center, Mont Saint Michel in Normandy, in which some of you also may recognize as being one of the locations in Castlevania, and Waikiki Beach in Honolulu. So this is what the building looks like now. Yep, it just looks very worn down. As of like 2007, 2008, it just looks very worn down. Dare I say, decrepit. And now we move on to city pop and anime. So many anime reflected the culture and style of the music. It wasn't as rare to see artists of this genre dabble in anime music. So we have some anime series such as move on. As well-known city pop artists would also often write and or perform a song as an anime OP and ED, or in some cases, a city pop song would also be heard in a modern anime. So some of these songs include Miho Fujiwara's Streets Are Hot from California Crisis, Masanori Geda's Night of Summer Side from Kimagure Orange Road, Meiko Nakahara had 2, Russian Roulette from Dirty Pair and Dance in the Memories also from Kimagure Orange Road. Miki Matsubara had Safari Eyes from Dirty Pair Project Eden, and Kaoru Kohiru Imaki had Love Don't Leave Me from City Hunter, and Henri, of course, had Cat's Eye from Cat's Eye. In some cases, city pop artists have even traveled to the West to record their music and even collaborated with famous Western artists. So one example is Muritake Uchi flying to Los Angeles and working with producers David Foster and Jay Graydon, as well as members of Toto for the Miss M album in 1980. Foster and members of Toto also worked with Noko Kawai for the 9/2 album in 1985. In addition, Minako Honda collaborated with Brian May of Queen to record the song Golden Days in 1987. And then also we have Kaoru Korimaki, her album Time the Motion also has two songs produced by Prince. And then other notable collaborations include Toshiki Kanamatsu with Don Grusin and Al McKay of Earth, Wind & Fire for Weekend Flight to the Sun in '82, Minako Yoshida with Gene and Billy Page for the 1978 album Let's Do It, and as mentioned earlier, Tatsuya Mashita recording in New York and Los Angeles for Circus Town. Other people involved in city pop include Mai Yamane, who famously worked on music for Cowboy Bebop with Yoko Kanno, and she released several studio albums in the 1980s, such as this one, Tasogare. We have Takanori Arisawa, who is best known as the composer for Sailor Moon, and he was a member of the vocal pop group Soap. Motoyoshi Iwasaki, a composer for series such as Hamtaro, Heaven's Lost Property, and Wave, Listen to Me, and he was a frontman and lead singer for a pop group called Motoyoshi Iwasaki and Windy. And most famously, I guess, Shiro Sagisu, a composer for the series Kimegure Orange Road, and most famously, Neon Genesis Evangelion. He was a member of the AOR pop trio Blend, and also did solo studio albums, and he was also a support keyboardist for the fusion band T-Squared during its first few years. Moving on, we also have some anime voice actors and actresses, and sometimes some familiar faces in the anime voicing and acting industry in Japan during the 1980s also recorded their own C-pop albums. So we have Toru Furuya, Yamcha Dragon Ball, Kyosuke Kasuga, Kimegure Orange Road, Toshio Furukawa, Piccolo Dragon Ball, Ataru from Urusei Yatsura, Mari Ijima, Lin Minmay of Macross, and Takako Ota, Creamy Mami, the Magic Angel. And then we also have Alessandra Mussolini. She is an Italian politician and former model, and I bet some of you may know that she has I guess a well-known grandfather in history. Yep, she released her sole studio album titled Amore in 1982. And then oddly enough, we also have Emmanuel Lewis, the star of the 1980 sitcom Webster. He released a single titled City Connection in '81. And then we also have other examples such as Seo Jisoo, who is a K-pop singer, and then we also have action star Jackie Chan, and Ai Furihata, best known as the voice of Ruby Kurosawa of Aquars from Love Live Sunshine, who also is a recent example of anime voice actors tackling the city pop genre. Moving on to this very iconic photo. We'll go on to more of that in a bit. The Rising Queen takes her throne. This is a song titled, Mayonaka no Door, Stay With Me. This was Miki Matsubara's debut single released in 1979. It peaked at number 28 at the Oricon Singles Chart. It was written by lyricist Yoshiko Miura and composed and produced by Tetsuji Hayashi, and it was later featured on her 1980 album Pocket Park in 1980. So I would still consider this a bit of a 70s song, since it still has that essence of like disco. Miki Matsubara also sang the OP theme of Gugu Ganmo under the pseudonym Suzy Matsubara. Unfortunately, in 2004, she passed away due to complications from cancer. But even after that, the song gained new recognition decades after its release, eventually rising to the same popularity status of Plastic Love, if not higher. It topped the Spotify Viral 50 chart for over 2 weeks in late 2020. The song has been used over 200,000 times on TikTok. Wow, look at that. And both the single and the album were reissued on vinyl in 2020 and 2021, which I have right here. It's pressed on blue-colored vinyl, so let me show you what it looks like real quick. While I take this out, I will say that in a 2021 interview for the Japan Times, Tetsuji Hayashi, who was surprised to hear of the song's newfound popularity, said, and I quote, "I'm very happy about the fact that this song made people happy, especially during the COVID-19 era. Maybe that would be the happiest thing for Matsubara too, that her music is still being heard." So this is what the blue-colored single looks like. Very nice. And now we're going to move on to this picture. As you can see right here, it spent 18 days at number 1 on Spotify's Viral 50 from December 10th through 27th of 2020. And right here, there's this song titled Dirndl Weed or something like that. It's number 2. It's a song made by a German YouTuber about, believe it or not, smoking marijuana. And now, hopefully if I get this right, I'm going to show you a video. This actually comes from an NHK news report. I think it was in 2021, if not 2020. So I'll play that for you right now. Let me see if I can just reach this area.
40年ほど前に日本で発表された一つの曲が海外で注目を集めています。ネットを通じて音楽に接する今の時代ならではです。Stay with me 真夜中のドアを叩き
42年前に発表された真夜中のドア Stay with me オリコンの調べでレコード販売数が 10.5 万枚ヒットチャートでは最高28位だったこの曲今時を超え多くの人の心を捉えています
すごい人気です。特にここ、2、3年前から急激にもうあっという間ですね。出した瞬間に売れちゃう。
人気は国内以上に世界で。Stay with me
真夜中のドアを叩き
So this is the song's composer and producer, Tetsuji Hayashi.
この真夜中のドア Stay with me を作曲した静岡県富士市出身の林哲司さんです1970年代初めから活動を開始世に送り出したのは時代を彩った名曲の数々ですちょっと耳を傾けてみましょう70年代から80年代にかけて洋楽の影響を受けて生み出された都会的で洗練された日本のポップスシティポップと呼ばれ林さんはその代表的なヒットメーカーなんですそんな林さんにとっても発表から41年経った去年からのリバイバルは驚きだと言います
正直最初はもう41年経ってる曲ですしね海外だっていうことで自分としてはなぜっていうのが先だったんですよねなぜ今真夜中のドア Stay with me に世界から注目が集まったのか大きなきっかけとなったのがインドネシアで YouTube を中心に活動しているシンガーのレイニッチさんです実は4年ほど前から日本のシティポップは徐々に世界で人気が広がっていました去年真夜中のドア Stay with me に見せられたというレイニッチさんが歌うと世界中に拡散原曲への関心も一気に高まったのです専門家は
国境を越えた音楽の聴き方というのがインターネットを介した部分では当たり前になってきている埋もれていた過去の日本の名曲に光が当たるきっかけっていうのがどんどん生まれている
42年前若き日に仲間たちと作った曲が今再び放つ輝き作曲した林さんには込み上げてくる思いがありました滑らかに波を打つような声で曲を彩った歌手松原美樹さんこの曲はデビュー曲でしたが17年前44歳の若さで亡くなりました
その41年前にある意味完結はしてるわけですよね今改めて世界で聴かれているっていうことはましてやこのコロナ禍の中で、その一瞬でもなんかその人々がこの曲を聴いて和んでいただけるっていうことはポップスをやってるものとしてはもう勲章をもらう以上のことだと思ってるんですよ
国境も時間も超え、コロナの今も愛される曲。そこには決して色あせることのない音楽の力がありました。
And there you have it. And now let me just exit out of this, and now we're going to move on to how to get into city pop and other genres. The answer is very simple, sort of. So that right here, that is a picture of Takako Mamiya on the cover of her 1982 solo album. I think it was her only album, Love Trip. It is very nice. I think we don't know what happened to Takako Mamiya because I think after this release, she never did anything musically since. So it's a bit of a mystery. So we have this chart. This looks very daunting because of how small it is, but I will go over everything shortly. And now we have the essentials. We have Takako Mamiya's Love Trip, as I mentioned earlier. We have Taikonuki Sun Shower. Tatsuya Yamashita's For You, great album over there. We have Henri's Timely. And we have Toshi Karamatsu's After Five Clash. Other classics we have, of course, we have Sugar Babe, Miki Matsubara, Minako Yoshida, Eiichi Wataki, Makoto Matsushita's First Light, Ramu's Thanksgiving, Omega Tribe, Junko Yagami, and Piper, for example. For synth pop, new wave, and technokaya, we have Akihiko Yano, Yukihiro Takahashi, Moon Riders, Armihiro Koshi, Tomoko Aran, for example. I will go through this a bit quickly, but just in case you miss anything, there is a server invite at the end of this panel. So for idol pop, we have, for examples, Akina Nakamori, Momoko Kikuchi most famously, and then some male idols like Toshihiko Tahara, that's a bit small to read, sorry. And we also have Hideki Saisho as a male idol. For folk rock and folk country blues, etc., we also have Harumi Hosono, Happy End, Hachimitsu Pai, Hiroshi Kamayatsu, and Wataru Takada as some examples. For jazz fusion, we have, for example, Prism, Masayoshi Takanaka as being a great example, Kazumi Watanabe, Kazumi Hori Project, Noriki, T-Square, Cassiopeia most famously, and Toshi Kanamatsu with his 1987 jazz rock album, See Is a Lady. And then other notable releases, for example, we have some of these, Shigeru Suzuki's Bandwagon, I'm tongue slipping here, Nanumi Nanetsu's Through Traffic, this one's another great one right here, Seaside Lovers, Memories in Beach House. This is a project featuring Masataka Matsutaya, Akira Inoue, and Hiroshi Sato composing, I guess, ambient relaxation summer music, and it's very great. And then modern artists, for example, we have Kirinji, Tomomi Sano, Ryusenkei, Jung Fujiyama, and Especia, for example. For some non-Japanese albums, we have Shack Attack, famous for the song and album Nightbirds, Evelyn King's Get Loose, Yukika Soul Lady, and Marcos Valles' self-titled album from '83. For vinyl, with vinyl having a resurgence in popularity and projected to outsell CDs in the future, more and more people, believe it or not, are going to Japan to go to their are in Japan to go to their local record stores, most famously such as HMV Record Shop and Tower Records, to buy some of their favorite albums. As you can see in the data, MRC data says vinyl sales in the US rose by 51% between 2020 and 2021. RIAJ, which is essentially the Recording Industry Association of Japan, said vinyl sales increased by more than 10 times during the past decade, and HMV Record Shop and Tower Records in Japan are stocking more city pop records, and in addition, some popular city pop albums that have long been out of print on vinyl now have reissues. Most famously, we have one company such as Great Tracks, started in 2016 by Sony, which is dedicated to vinyl reissues of popular albums under the Sony Music Library, as well as some other EPs and singles. Many of the records were cut by famous engineer Bernie Grundman, and then we also have special events such as Record Store Day, same thing as here in the US, Record Day, or in Japanese, Record no Hi, from November 3rd and 27th, and there's also a special City Pop on Vinyl event, as well as anime songs on vinyl. And you know, there's nothing wrong with collecting CDs and cassette tapes too. So for starting a collection, because local files and streaming just aren't enough, many people outside of Japan use Discogs to purchase their city pop records, and sometimes eBay, as I have done, for example. And also, Bai and Zen Market are two of the top shopping proxy services for people wanting to purchase vinyl records through websites such as Amazon Japan and Yahoo Auctions. And there's also some other stores such as Book Off in 3 locations, particularly in New York, California, and Hawaii. You might find some stuff if you're lucky. And also, some of your local record stores, depending on where you live, might offer some titles if they haven't. Most famously, Face Records in New York City. You can see a little picture right here. That's a store in New York that houses city pop records, most famously. And because of this, it's almost become a bit of a tourist attraction for fans living in the area, and they advertise all the records they sell on their Instagram page. We also have Offshore Sounds and Boogie Maru Sounds, both based in California. And some vendors at conventions might have some Japanese LPs and CDs for sale, so you might want to look around. For official US releases, they were of city pop and jazz fusion works, they were not as common as they were in the homeland of Japan. And some artists failed to make the charts in attempts to branch the US market. So for example, we have Akira Nakamori's Cross My Palm, Reimi's Speed of Light, and Seiko Matsuda's Seiko album from 1990. But thankfully, because of the city pop renaissance, more American companies are distributing Japanese city pop music, most famously Light in the Attic, and as well. So this is there on the bottom right. That's the album cover for the Pacific Breeze compilation with artwork by Hiroshi Nagai, as well as Ship to Shore Phonoco. And this is unheard of before, because back then these US releases often failed, likely due to lack of promotion, and most of these releases were in the English language and very rarely were they in Japanese. And we also have other companies outside of Japan handling some of those reissues of city pop and jazz fusion music, such as We Want Sounds, based in France, as well as We Release Whatever the F We Want Records in Switzerland. I assume you know what F stands for. And now we're gonna move on. Yeah, and now we're gonna move on to this next video. This is, if it would play, what's it say? Could not find YouTube page. Okay, good. I have a download backup just in case. This is a segment from Nippon Shisatsudan from January 18th, 2020. So this was right before things went to utter doo-doo in the world. And so here it is.
今外国人が殺到する江戸東京名所第3位は
掘り出し物をゲット。
フランスでももちろん有名な場所だよ。ミュージックビデオにも撮影されているよ。
ここに行ったわ。
渋谷センター街がランクイン。
やった合ってる。
近年渋谷は再開発が一気に進み、続々と新施設がオープン。また新しい街へと進化を遂げていますが、変わらずにぎわっているセンター街周辺で今外国人客のお目当ては
妻と一緒に中古レコードを買ったんだ。
アナログレコードの買い物です。中でも人気のジャンルが
山下達郎のポケットミュージック。本当にいい曲なんだ。これを買える日が来るなんて信じられない。
アメリカでもこういう日本の音楽っていうのは流行ってるんですか？
そうだね。インターネットがきっかけかな。例えば山下達郎プラスティックラブという曲が YouTube で人気になってシティポップが流行りだしたんだ。僕は最近彼のアルバムしか聴いていないよ。
シティポップは70年代から80年代に日本のミュージシャンが発表したポピュラー音楽。それが今ネット情報もきっかけとなり海外で爆発的な人気になっているのです。
矢野明子さんだ。
Toshiki Karamatsu. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
このレコードは持ってないんだ。
さらに
Miki Matsubara. Yeah, I like this.
彼女の曲よく聞くんだよ。最近はデータで音楽を聴くのが流行ってるけど、レコードは集めたり壁に飾ったりできるし、すごいクールだと思うんだ。
渋谷センター街の周辺にはアナログレコードの専門店が15軒ほどあり、なんと昨年も新たにオープン。流行最先端の街渋谷は、実は今外国人にとって古いレコードを買いに来る名所でもありました。
So that was back in early 2020, back when I guess when many people want to go to Japan to buy for records, and I think it's safe to say that hasn't stopped. So moving on to this section titled City Pop and Pop Culture, I have right here, ladies and gentlemen. Yep. So that is The Weeknd, looking very old here on the cover art of, I think, his latest album, Dawn FM, and I'll explain more why he's relevant in a bit. So for movies and TV, we have a few examples of some movies. We have Nami no Kazu Dake Dake Shimete, which I think is a movie from, I think, the early 1990s, which features some songs by Yumi Matsutoya or Yuming. We also have Big Wave, which features songs from the 1984 Tatsuya Yamashita soundtrack, I think, of the same name. For TV, we have some morning news and commentary shows sometimes talking about city pop, and I think if some of you, I'm not sure if this happened in the US, but if some of you watched CNN during New Year's, there was like a section dedicated to, I guess, the 45th year of Henri celebrating her 45th year in the music business with some discussion on Japanese city pop. I'm not sure, like I said, I'm not sure if this happened in the US, but I think it did air on at least an international broadcast on CNN during New Year's. We also have, for example, Good Luck, which is a drama that aired in the 2000s that famously uses Tatsuya Yamashita's Right on Time as the ending theme. And now we also have some famous specials such as City Pop Cruising and Hit Song Makers that aired sometime in the early 2020s when city pop was getting very popular. And moving on to commercials, we also have the Maxell UD cassette commercial for Right on Time. And as I mentioned, Tatsuya Yamashita has famously had some songs being used in commercials. So Right on Time is considered to be one of Tatsuya Yamashita's greatest songs. It was used in the commercials for promoting Maxell's blank cassette tapes, in which he made appearances in. If you've seen the commercial, it's the one where he stands into the water and he goes doing a pointing motion like this. And as well as Japan Railways in a series for Xmas Express, a series of commercials titled Xmas Express, in which his song Christmas Eve from the 1983 album Melodies was famously used in these commercials from 1988 to 1992. So for anime and manga, we have a few examples. So for Studio Ghibli, or Ghibli, some songs by Yumi Arai have been featured in 2 of these movies. Kiki's Delivery Service has Lipstick Message, or Ruju no Dengon, and Wrapped in Kindness, or Yashashisa ni Tsutsumare Tanara, while The Wind Rises has Vapor Trail, or Hikoki Gumo. And many city pop songs have been covered by famous characters of the Idolmaster franchise, such as Moriya Takeuchi's Fushigi na Peach Pie, Miho Nakayama's You're My Only Shining Star, and Minako Yoshida's Yume de Aetara. Slow Motion wo mo ichido is a manga that highlights 1980s pop culture while depicting a romance between 2 high school students. In fact, the title of the manga is indeed a reference to Akira Nakamori's debut single titled Slow Motion. Sound Euphonium, or Hibike Euphonium, features marching band covers of Raidin by Yellow Magic Orchestra, Kimi wa Tenen Shoku by Ichi Otaki, and Takarajima by T-Square, or The Square. Shinkansen Henkei Robo Shinkalion, which I'll show a video a bit, famously parodies, but not really parodies, famously reanimates in anime two of these commercials for Japan Railways Xmas Express, which famously features Tatsuya Mashita's Christmas Eve, which I'll play a video of that in a bit. We also have Kakushigoto's My Dad's Secret Ambition, famously using Eiichi Otaki's Kimi wa Tennen Shoku as the ending theme. We have words bubble up like soda pop, featuring some cover art for city pop albums, which we'll sort of slide in a bit, as well as your boy Kanmi featuring a Right on Time poster. And then Muta King the Dancing Hero, or a reboot of Muta King the Dashing Warrior, does feature an instrumental cover of Plastic Love in the opening scene of the first episode. So we're going to move on to this. So this is the left is the original, the right is the animated version. Nothing like Moonwalk, which is the Pfizer program. So that's the first commercial. Here's the second one. So there's that, and funnily enough, there's actually a parody of the second commercial where the boyfriend gets taken away by cops while the girlfriend still waits until she notices that he's gone missing. So, shame for that. And now we're gonna move on to this next slide. This is the film Words Bubble Up Like Soda Pop from 2020-2021, and it features some album covers rendered in anime style. So we have Taika Unuki's Sun Shower, the back of Tatsuya Mashita's For You, and another album, Southern All-Stars, Tiny Bubbles from 1980. And Taika Unuki even wrote and performed a song for the Words Bubble Up Like Soda Pop soundtrack. And in a similar scenario, the cover artwork for Hiroshi Yoshimura's Green can be found in Japan Sinks 2020, released in 2020, and a remix version of Creek was heard in the soundtrack. And then next up we have this. This is from your boy Konming from 2022. And in Eiko's room, that's the girl right here, sitting on the bed. You could see a dancing time poster, which is based on the cover artwork for Tatsuya Mashita's Right on Time. And for music, we have a few examples. Most famously, we have for new music and lyric videos, we have the 35th anniversary music video for Plastic Love by Mori Takeuchi. And then we also have the new lyric video for Miki Matsubara's Mayonaka no Door. And then Hisashi Yaguchi, the author of Stop Hibari-kun, collaborated with Indonesian artist Ardira Putra to produce the animated music video for the Niagara Triangle theme, Eimen de Koi o Shite. And there was also a video for Kimi wa Tennen Shoku that was released the previous year for the 40th anniversary of A Long Vacation. For K-pop and international acts, we have a few examples. Yubin has a song titled Lady, which was inspired by Plastic Love, and even the music video has a nice aesthetic to it. And then there's also the City Love controversy, where she was intending to release a song titled City Love, but during the preview it sounded very similar to Plastic Love, and it could allege copyright infringement, so unfortunately that never got released anywhere. And then we also have Yukika's Soul Lady being another example of K-pop having city pop influence in K-pop, for example. We also have another international artists such as EQ Baru from Indonesia, Polycat and Telexes from Thailand, and I'm probably gonna butcher this last name since I'm Vietnamese, so Phuong Khang Linh from Vietnam. Hopefully I did that one right. And some modern covers, for example, as you saw in that other video I shared earlier, we have Rainy CH, famously covering Miki Matsubara's Stay With Me, Mayonaka no Door. Mac DeMarco considers Harumi Hosono as one of his biggest influences and even recorded a cover of his song Honeymoon. And then We also have some famous covers of Plastic Love, such as Tofu Beats, Fujikaze, Emihazy Minami, who's a former VTuber, and Friday Night Plans, as well as other city pop fans from around the world. For some sampling in other songs, mainly non-vaporwave and future funk, we have a few examples. Tatsuya Masuda sang Sparkle, and then he was sampled in Boo featuring Mural's Smile on Your Face from 2002. Hi-Fi Set Sky Restaurant was sampled by J. Cole in the track January 28 from 2014 Forest Hills Drive. It's the background part that goes ba 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 if you listen to J. Cole. We have Tatsuya Masuda's Fragile famously being interpolated in the track Gone Gone Thank You by Tyler the Creator from Igor. Maya Mane Tasogara was, I guess, infamously sampled in the track Pissy Pamper, aka Kid Cudi, by Young Nudie, Pierre Bjorn, and Playboy Cardi. Tatsuya Masuda's Right on Time was sampled in Yoshi's track Riding on Time. It was produced by Madcab in 2019, and Madcab also sang the song Still Alive from the Yuri on Ice soundtrack. And then most famously and most recently, we have Tomoko Aran's Midnight Pretenders being sampled by The Weeknd for Out of Time for the 2021 album Dawn FM. As for internet and online culture, we have a few examples. We have the Alpha Music YouTube channel, which was started, I guess, not too while ago by the Alpha Record Company of Japan, and they have a series titled My Favorite Alpha, where they discuss like some of the favorite Alpha albums in the songs in the library, and they have a few guests come in, such as Ginger Root, for example. We also have Taiko Unuki's 4am being, I guess, a city pop mainstay in pop culture, similar to Plastic Love. We have VAP, Video Audio Project, or VAP. Their Tokyo Turntable series features, I guess, uploads of city pop songs set to, I guess, city pop art. And then Gar Gura, I apologize if I pronounced that, from Hololive EN. She's known as the City Pop Shark. She's a VTuber known as the City Pop Shark because she made her debut by singing Right on Time by Tatsuya Masuda. And a poster was based on the cover of Right on Time, featuring fellow Hololive VTuber Auro Koni, can be seen in the original animation Shark. So right there, that's the poster on the top right. For memes, we have a few examples. Siva Gunner's King for Another Day tournament famously features Mario Takeuchi as a contender, where she ended up in second place. And do any of y'all know who won that King for a Day tournament that year?
DJ Professor K.
That's correct, DJ Professor K. And then we ended up getting 11 minutes of city pop based off which is a medley of rearranged city hall tracks. The title's based off the 9 minutes of Tatsuya Masuda medley from '82. We, of course, have fan art of the Plastic Love image, as you can see from the bottom right there. That's actually Komi from Komi Can't Communicate. Oh. Yep, very surprising. Yeah, we also have Junko Ohashi's telephone number being used as a meme featuring the character Momiji Inubashiri, wow, that's hard to pronounce, from Toho, known as Telephone Haru. 56709. Yeah, that's the one. We also have some memes such as the City Pop memes _memes account on Instagram, as well as our City Pop Circle Jerk. It's like Vinyl Circle Jerk or something like that, Beatles Circle Jerk, for example. For other examples, we have some video games featuring some city pop tracks, and some tracks were even inspired by city pop itself. So, for example, we have 5 of Tatsuya Masuda's songs being featured in the Japanese release for the Yakuza game, Yakuza 6, The Song of Life. We also have the song Plastic Love being featured on Taiko no Tatsujin very recently. And many players of Animal Crossing New Horizons noticed the song Hazare Otu, composed by Kazumi Totaka and sung by KK Slider, sounds very similar to Tatsuya Masuda's Sparkle, and eventually a city and pop remix versions of the track is found on the vinyl release featuring other Animal Crossing songs. We also have, for example, the lyrics to Momoko Kikuchi's Futari no Night Dive being featured in Banana Yoshimoto's novel Kitchen. We also have the Anime Expo Homecoming City Pop Concert and Dance Party that was being held back in July of 2022, and it features Mari Ijima, I'm surprised too. And if you are based in Cleveland, Ohio, there's actually a City Pop sushi restaurant that opened, I guess, not too long ago, so you can check that out. There have also been books written about city pop, so there are plenty of recommendations. I could go go over. And there's also the last Akiba tape known as Fly Away, which a song that sounds similar to city pop has no identified artist as of recent. So we have many people trying to track down that mystery. And now we're going to move on to this. So right here it says, we tried calling 1-800-CITY-POP, and as it turns out, it's a direct line to Takeuchi-san's cell phone. She was very excited and flew to our warehouse in Maryland to seal the deal. That is an official City Pop mean tweet by the MAGFest Twitter account from 2019. And as you can see in the description, someone in the replies at Super Bullet Will said, y'all had a real opportunity to use 56709 here, and you missed it. I guess they'll never forgive themselves for that, but moving on. I apologize if my voice is getting weak. I've been talking a lot, but what are the reactions from these city pop artists, for example? We have Tatsuya Masa. He talked about meeting an American fan at a record store. The fan had a copy of his record, Go Ahead, and he mentioned that Bomber was his favorite song. Maria Takeuchi said in an interview for the Japan Times that many fans of Plastic Glove don't seem to care about the song's language because of how popular it is. Taiko Unuki heard of a fan who originally came from Japan to look for a copy of Sun Shower, and the two eventually met each other for the first time while he attended one of her concerts. And then Juku Yagami said in an interview for the profile article for the Mainichi, oddly enough, I moved to America adoring Western music and have spent half my life there. But now I'm into singing songs no one else can sing in Japanese that touch Japanese people's hearts while pronouncing Japanese beautifully. Nonetheless, I think that the songs I write now will also probably be treated as city pop in the decades to come. That's because Western music has permeated my consciousness. I only exist as I do because of Western music. So that was then. And we're into now. So what about the future? So, we're living in a digital age where more music is becoming easily accessible thanks to stuff like, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube uploads, Pandora. I don't know if anyone's using that still. Older music never really fell out of fashion, because a while ago, the song Kate, Running Up That Hill, A Deal With God by Kate Bush, it gained new popularity after it was featured in a season 4 episode of Stranger Things. And then we also have modern artists incorporating older styles into their music, such as Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars act Silk Sonic, and Lizzo putting more disco into her song About Damn Time. And we also have some internet trends help revive popularity of these genres. So is city pop becoming mainstream? I would say not really, because it's still sort of a niche genre and has been widely known amongst several audiences. So will the genres of today gain new fans from tomorrow? Could be a possibility that another niche genre could well soar into new popularity in the future. Would other genres from around the world potentially see the same effect? Because we're talking about a genre from Japan, so any other genre from France, Italy, or even Micronesia could have some new popularity in the future. Ultimately, the future is up to us, the fans. And now before we end this, we're going to move on to some fun facts and trivia. Before Maria Takeuchi released her debut album Beginning with the single Morote Oide Watashi no Jikan, both released in November of '78, she previously appeared on the Loft Sessions Volume 1 album, which was released a few months prior, where she sang 2 songs, Hollywood Cafe, co-written by Taiko Unuki, and 8-Note Song, originally by Shigeru Suzuki. And a promotional single was also released, and Takeuchi originally spelled her first name in katakana before adopting her hiragana name, Maria, rather than Maria with a Y. And similarly, Carlos Toshiki of Carlos Toshiki and Omega Tribe in 1986 Omega Tribe made his solo debut single 4 years before joining Omega Tribe with the record titled Lucia. The first city pop album released on compact disc was Eiichi Otaki's A Long Vacation on October 1st, 1982. There are at least 3 known pressing variations of this CD, and in 2022, a copy of the initial gold-face pressing was valued at over 280,000 yen, so that's around $2,000 back then. And then the first US album or Western album released in Japan on CD was Billy Joel's 52nd Street, released by CBS Sony on that same day. Ever hear of the phrase, it runs in the family? Here are some city pop relations by blood. Singer Minako Yoshida is the younger sister of recording engineer Tamotsu Yoshida. Haruko Kuwana and Masahiro Kuwana are siblings, and also Masahiro Kuwana is the father of J-pop singer Miyuji. Hitomi Penny Toyama has a sister named Keiko, named Mira, and they release music. Hiromi Iwasaki and Yoshimi Iwasaki are sisters. Pop idol Seiko Matsuda and Minako Honda are cousins. And this is the funniest one. Jun Aoyama, on the left right here, a session drummer and member of Tatsumashita's touring band, was the father of Hideki Aoyama, a drummer for the kawaii band Baby Metal. And then moving on to this. Masatoshi Nishimura, who helped produce Tomoko Aran's Midnight Pretenders, which was famously sampled in The Weeknd's Out of Time, as I previously mentioned, appeared as the lead guitarist and vocalist of the band, featured on Season 5 of Adult Swim's The Eric Andre Show. I think it's going to get renewed for like a Season 6, so can't wait for that. Other facts, for example, we have Yellow Magic Orchestra being not only the first black band to perform on Soul Train back in, I think, 1980, but also the only Japanese band to do soul as well. And then Karen Carpenter's last recorded song, Now, is a cover of Maria Takeuchi's Heart to Heart off the Miss M album. And then a lawsuit between Tatsuo Yamashita and his former record label ended up reaching international news, such as Billboard magazine, with the two parties reaching an agreement in 1995. Kamasami Kong, or his real name is Robert W. Zix, is an American DJ in Hawaii, best known for narrating radio-style releases for popular city pop artists, including Tatsuo Yamashita, Toshi Kanamatsu, and Kiyotaka Sugiyama and Omega Tribe. And some city pop artists practice different religions. Yuki Saito is a member of the Mormon Church, and Yuri Kokubu has been a Christian since '96. And then some articles I do recommend reading. Actually, I think there's a duplicate slide, so I added some few more after this. I don't know why I didn't delete this. So right here, some articles I do recommend, such as Vice, Rolling Stone, Billboard, and some videos I do recommend, particularly by An Intro to City Pop and What is Plastic Love by Steve M., as well as The Plastic Love Photo Incident, or Tales from the Internet from Wang. And then some recommended YouTube channels. For example, we have Come Along Radio, Surf Expect, Searching for Sounds, Kuma's Campfire. We have my channel, for example, Communal Station, for more uploads of Hidden Gems. Some more references right here. We have, you can scan this QR code right now if you want. This is a link to a Discord server for the City Pop Plus Discord. We also have some official City Pop subreddit references. We have r/True City Pop, r/Come Along Radio, and the Kaiju Koku Plus Blogspot blog. I have the next code on the QR slide, and I have the next QR code on the next slide, so. Yeah, I guess if that's it, I guess the presentation over, unless there's any questions. Thank you, guys.